Madden Sports Podcast, joined here by Greg Peterson, host of the Greg Peterson Experience, Betting the Brackets, and the Coast to Coast Hoops Podcast, presented by Vison Live. Greg, how's the day treating you so far?
Day is treating me quite well. It's a lovely day out here in Las Vegas. Starting to get a little bit warm, but you know what? Being someone from Wisconsin, you don't have to ever shovel out here, which is very, very refreshing to me. So I'm doing great and glad to be on with you. Thank you.
Yeah, so glad to have you back, and gotta love that Vegas heat. You need to send some my way to Canada. It's just not that warm here, but wishing it warm. We'll get it soon enough. But Greg, we're going to have a fantastic night talking here. We're going to talk some MLB, some NBA, get your thoughts on all of these games going on later tonight. So let's jump into it. We've got games going on right now. Before we do that, anything that you're sweating out in these games at the moment?
Well, when it comes to the early portion, I was very happy that the Mets were able to cover the run line in that one, but I take a look at the Yankees versus the LA Angels. I wound up taking a shot on the Yankees on the run line in that one. Grabbed that a little bit earlier. Nestor Cortez has been absolutely tremendous. And Reed Detmers, to his credit, he's got that no-hitter, but we are recalling that no-hitter, he only wound up getting 2 strikeouts on that one. So I wasn't necessarily feeling the Angels. They've been on a 6-game losing streak. I think that there's a chance that Shohei could be able to bust some out of that tomorrow, but I don't think that that day is today. And then when it comes to what we're seeing just across the rest of the board out there in the National League, the Brewers versus Cubs game that is going to be coming up, I think is going to be interesting with, of all people, Jason Alexander, no doubt the comedian, getting a start, which I thought was hilarious. And then in terms of a game that is going on right now, I took a look at the San Francisco Giants, and I made them personally a little bit of a slight favorite. They wound up closing a slight underdog, so wound up taking a nibble there on them.
Nice. I like it. So we've got 3 games starting at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. 3 solid games. Absolutely here. Starting off with the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Chicago Cubs. Now we know the Brewers are coming in here. Minus 115 on the money line. Cubs at home minus 105 with a total of 8 in this one. What are you liking here?
I felt like the Cubs should have been a slight favorite. Instead, we're seeing them as a slight underdog. So I want to take a shot on the Cubs. And what I really like here is the over, as this is a total that it wound up closing at 8. This is a case in which the wind is blowing in, but it's a very, very light wind. It shouldn't wind up playing too much of a factor out there in Wrigley Field. And I mentioned it, Jason Alexander getting his first career start, which when you wind up hearing that name, you think Seinfeld, not necessarily a guy that's going to be starting for the Milwaukee Brewers. And you take a look at them at the minor league level. He wasn't bad or anything like that, but the Professor Kyle Hendricks has always been better at home than he has been on the road. He's been giving up a little bit too much hard contact, but I attribute a little bit of that to the fact that in a lot of his starts out there at Wrigley Field, the wind has been blowing out, which makes you a little bit more prone to giving up the deep ball. And with the Brewers, it has been a team that has had to dive into their bullpen a little bit more recently. They are going to have Devin Williams, Josh Hader most likely available in this one, but keep in mind that these 2 teams did wind up playing a little bit of a doubleheader earlier this week as well. So I do think that the Cubs going to be able to get a little bit more length here out of the Professor Kyle Hendricks. So I like the Cubs here at home, and I do like this little over.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good slugfest we have on the diamonds tonight in that game. But then we're turning to the next game. 8:05 Eastern, we have the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Texas Rangers. Now, Rangers, another home dog in this one at minus 104, plus 104 right now on the money line, with John Gray starting for them. And then Tampa coming in here on the road. Looks like most of the money's going with them, and Jeffrey Springs starting for them. Minus 113 here on the money line, and a total that's dropped from 8 to 7.5. Greg, what are your thoughts on this one?
I agree with the money coming in on the Tampa Bay Rays. I want to brighten this one up for DK Nation today. Jeffrey Springs, ever since he became a starter, has a 2.30 ERA as a starter. Overall for the year, it's sub 175. He's been good at being able to get some swings and misses, has done a nice job not giving up a lot of walks, keeps the ball in the yard, and a little bit of a revenge spot in that Jeffrey Springs was actually in the bullpen of the Rangers a few years ago. So I do think that he's going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder in the start. And then take a look at the flip side for John Gray, as I always like to call him, 55 shades of John Gray. And Well, his ERA has been pretty close to that. It's got 2 5s in it, a 5.56. It has not been too terrific from this season overall for his career away from Coors Field, because you may recall from 2015 to 2021, pitched for the Colorado Rockies. A 4.67 ERA, has always been a pitcher contact guy. He's never had a full season in which he's given up fewer than 8.8 hits per 9 innings. So Rangers bullpen has been relatively solid, but for the Rays, you've got a guy in JP Fireeisen who has not allowed a single run all season long. And I think that a lot of people's big trepidation with the Rays in this spot is that Jeffrey Springs is someone that began the season out of the bullpen, but he has been stretched out now, has went more than 5 innings each out of his last 2 starts, including going 6 strong against one of the league's best lineups in the New York Yankees. So I don't have a lot of fear there. I do like the Rays in the spot, and I do like this total over as well, in that John Gray has been giving up quite a few runs. Now, Wander Franco is currently out the fold for the Tampa Bay Rays, but the Rays still have a lot of consistency in the middle of that lineup. A lot of guys hitting at 250 plus. So I do think that the Rays are going to be able to string together some hits, get the job done. I like the over, and I like the Rays.
Okay, that leaves us to the last game of the night, the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the LA Dodgers. Now, we know the Pirates have been able to win these last 2 games of the series. Do they get it done tonight? Plus 215 on the money line if we have faith in them.
I have taken the Pirates in the first 2 games of the series, and when you wind up taking an underdog like this in the first 2 games of the series, you have to be a real schmuck to take them the third time around. I'm a real schmuck. I'm taking them the third time around. You take a look at this pitching matchup, and Mitch White has not been impressive. He's got a north of a 4 ERA, not a guy that's going to lend a lot of length, and it's been a shaky Dodgers bullpen. I mean, we wound up seeing Craig Kimbrell on Monday wind up blowing his save. He's got right around a 4.80 ERA. With Blake trying out the fold, this has not been the same bullpen, and Phil Bickford has been dealing with a little bit of an injury as well, and he's actually a very underrated piece when it comes to this LA Dodgers bullpen, so that has been ailing them a little bit. Then you take a look at the flip side for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Do you have a team that has a lot of power? Absolutely not, especially with Daniel Vogelback dealing with a little bit of an injury, but Brian Hayes has been able to get on base for this team. Brian Reynolds is someone that last year wound up having a 300 batting average, and what I think is just so interesting with the Pirates is that all but 3 of their wins this year have come out of the bullpen. So the guys late, you got a couple guys there a little bit shaky like Chris Stratton, but David Bernard has been able to get the job done time and time again for the team. And Jose Quintana, ever since he got away from the Angels, he has actually been very solid. A sub 2.25 ERA, pitches a little bit more to contact, but has been able to do a good job of being able to induce some soft contact. With this being a little bit more of a night game in Los Angeles, ball doesn't fly as much as it would during the day. Now, it is a 5:10 p.m. Pacific time first pitch rather than a typical 7:10. So it is a little bit earlier, but you do wind up getting sort of that twilight period in which it does wind up messing with the batters a little bit more. So I think that Quintana, being someone that played in Los Angeles for a little bit of time, is aware of this, is going to be able to utilize that to his advantage. I think that this is just a little bit too lofty to be able to lay with Mitch White. I'm going to take a shot on the Pirates the third time around. Feel like you're playing a little bit with house money if you want to take the Pirates first 2 times around. So we're going to take them a third time. I've got faith in Quintana being able to get the job done.
I love where you're going with this. I love that you're calling yourself a smuck, taking them for the third time in a row. I really hope it hits for you tonight, Craig, in this one. Yes. Before we go, was there anything else that you're looking at on the roster, any of these games that are about to kick off that last minute people could get in?
With regards to tonight, I'm a little bit more of a casual hockey fan. You really do not want my hockey picks. I absolutely love the playoffs, and I've been loving what I've been seeing out of the Tampa Bay Lightning. As I always say, with the Ric Flair mentality, in order to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. So I think that there's a good shot that they are going to be able to win the Stanley Cup. I do think that even though the Avalanche have been so special, it is a case in which I think the Lightning deserve a little bit more due than what they're getting right now. You find them right around a minus 120 favorite against the Rangers. If I'd be looking anywhere, I'd be looking there. I'm going to be kicking back. I'm going to be relaxing a little bit more with regards to the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. So, and then when it comes to the NBA, I do like the Warriors to be able to win their series against Boston Celtics. If anything, I'd be taking a look at them laying a few points in game one. That said, it is a case which, when it comes to the NBA, I'm a little bit more of an in-game bettor just because there is a lot of volatility. Like, let's say the closing line for Warriors versus Celtics, we saw it open right around 3.5. Let's say that it winds up closing right in that neighborhood. Maybe it winds up closing more around a 4-ish. At some point, you got to think that you'd probably be able to get a little bit of discount on the Warriors. And then if you wind up seeing the Celtics wind up falling down a little bit earlier, rather than maybe taking a 4, perhaps you're able to get like an in-game 7, an in-game 8. It winds up landing on something like 5. So I do think that there's a lot of ways that you can go about betting the NBA. I do think that the Warriors do wind up winning this series. But that said, when it comes to the NBA finals, I'm looking at some in-game opportunities. I do think that there's a lot of ways that you're able to get better numbers in-game rather than taking this just before the contest.
Absolutely. So, Greg, how would you describe yourself as a bettor? Do you prefer the live bets more, or do you look at a bunch of futures and then live bet within those bets?
I'm more of a game-to-game guy. In most cases, I am not much of an in-game bettor, but the NBA is the one sport that I think is terrific for in-game betting because I think that there's the most volatility when it comes to in-game NBA betting because I did quite a bit of it when I moved out here to Las Vegas. I remember the 2018 playoffs. I would fire in a bet, and it felt like every single playoff game, say I'm laying like 2-3 points with a favorite. At some point, the team that I wound up taking, laying those 2 to 3 points, they are covering the spread by 15 points. And then in the second half, they aren't covering the spread by 10 points. And it becomes a big giant sweat at the end. Rather than trying to play Plinko and just riding all these waves, why not take a look in game and try to identify a little bit more of an opportunity? Because I feel like a lot of these opportunities don't wind up coming, especially in baseball, when you wind up having like a big giant favorite with the New York Yankees. They go up against the Baltimore Orioles. They're up 5-0 at the end of the first inning. And well, you were trying to maybe get a little bit of a discount on the Yankees, and that discount just did not wind up ever coming to you. In the NBA, you just get way more opportunities. There are going to be a few instances in which the opportunity does not wind up coming, but I just find that in the NBA, it's got the most volatility and it's got the most opportunities to be able to extract value during the game.
Absolutely. I love the way that you look at that. Now, Greg, you've got so many different shows going on. Can you tell everyone where to follow your shows as well as where to follow you and what time these shows are released so people can catch them?
The best place to go for everything is at @GUnit_81 on Twitter. I release a pair of podcasts at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern every single day. That'd be the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson. That's on the VSiN Best Bets feed. It's just me going through every single MLB game every single day, giving my picks and analysis, recapping a little bit of what we wound up seeing yesterday, taking a look at some trends that are coming about in Major League Baseball on a day in and day out basis. And then the other one is Coast to Coast Hoops. That is more of a college basketball podcast. Right now we are in the off season, but we've got a lot of NBA draft decisions that are coming up. And thus we are seeing some teams that they're going to be title contenders. They've got some guys that are coming back. There are some teams that maybe they were having high hopes for the upcoming college basketball season. They wound up losing a couple key pieces. So I'm going to be diving into that within the next few days, doing previews for all 32 conferences, everything from the small schools like the America East, the Big South, and then on up to the Big 10, the Big 12, all the big boys. And then on top of that, when it comes to VSiN, Greg Peterson Experience airs from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific time every Saturday. If you're out there on the East Coast, that's 10 p.m. bleeding into Sunday, 1 a.m. And then on VSiN as well, Monday through Thursday, you're going to be able to catch me on the Lookout. That is going to be from 10 p.m. Pacific to 1 Eastern. If you're out there on the East Coast, that is actually going to be more or less from, I guess you could call it Tuesday morning up until Friday, because that is going to be 1 to 4 a.m. Eastern.
Absolutely. Those time zones, at least we're not switching it to European time zones for us, Greg, because it gets confusing some days.
I can't do enough math to be able to name off like 8 time zones.
Absolutely. I'm in mountain, so sometimes I think when someone tells me Pacific, converting that should be easy. But when you think in Eastern, sometimes it isn't. But Greg, I want to thank you so very much for joining me here. I wish you all the best in all of your bets. Looking forward to those shows you have coming out, because I know you're phenomenal, especially breaking down basketball there. So looking forward to those previews. But thank you so much for joining me. We can't wait to have you back on again on the Joe Madden Sports Podcast.
Joe, I always appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.